Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to another week of Weekly Wrap. It is Friday, the 10th of July, and the end of the financial year seems like a long distant memory already, Anthony. It's with the New Year's come off to a flyer, and yeah, if anyone thought we were just going to sort of cruise into the new financial year, it hasn't really worked out that way, has it?
No, yeah, it's all hands on deck, and there's plenty getting done with a couple of people away, but all well and good.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We've still got Lukey away. I think he flies back into the country today, so I'm sure he'll be running amok come Monday morning. And Lisa stitched us up because we were going to have three of us on screen just now, but she's actually got a client, and yeah, so just you and I running weekly wrap today. So yeah, let's not blow it up, eh?
No, we'll have a crack anyway.
Terrific. Now, as per usual, I'll run through our weekly numbers that we've seen this week in markets across Australia and in the US. Unfortunately for Australia, I was sort of hoping for a glimmer of green in there at some stage, but it's sort of been look. We're off 1% for the week, but we've actually had a small down days the whole way through. Some of the key themes that have been sort of coming through have been inflation concerns, continuing within the Australian market, and therefore, decisions around rates being questioned and the like. So, market hasn't taken to that in a friendly manner at all. The US, on the other hand, has sort of had the opposite, where they've managed to etch out a 0.8% up return for the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq's up 1.5%. Still a lot of debate about the AI trades, and is it the real deal, and and how do we sort of sit with all of that. And I mean, like one of the there's a huge listing tonight, Anthony, in the US on the Nasdaq. It's actually South Korean chip maker SK Hynix. So it's a $26.5 billion listing that is very much the feeding that insatiable appetite for the AI hardware side of things, and massive chip maker. And I was doing a bit of reading about this company, and extraordinary. Like, these guys have basically sold their entire 2026 production, and they're actually raising money in order to fund the making of new factories, 7 times oversubscribed by institutional investors. So only second to the recent SpaceX listing. So yeah, that trade continues to dominate the world.
Yeah, well, AI is it's just another example in terms of where things are heading, where people are prepared to put money, and as much as skeptics will continue to say that it's a fad and it'll blow up at some point in time, the volume of money that's going into this is you got to question that maybe it's real, and you got to sit up, take notice, and potentially get involved where it's applicable.
Yeah, and I look at, and I think the fact that South Korean companies are listing on the US market just shows how big some of these companies are getting. Interesting bit of news during the week about antimania in South Korea, and I I actually had to look at what antimania was, and there is that many new participants in the South Korean stock market that they're referring to these investors as ants. The concerning side is that there is a lot of leverage going on with some of the trades there. Have you heard much about this, Anthony?
No, that's what I get called a lot, Ant, but I have nothing to do with this. But
I
yeah,
thought I was referring to you.
there's no mania about me, mate. Um, no, but you can understand it in terms of if you've got a market where a lot of mum and dads per se effectively have not been involved but start to get involved, either driven by the leaders of the country and driving into that AI space, then yeah, and particularly where it's geared, it's going to. I'm not going to say it's going to wreak havoc, but it's going to have a substantial impact because the volume of monies that are going in when leveraged is enormous, and yeah, it's you got to sit up and take notice.
Yeah, look, and I mean, the last numbers that I saw was something like there's leverage investments to the tune of 39 billion US dollars, and a lot of it is concentrated into stocks like SK Hynix and Samsung, the chip giant. So I think that the governments are actually having a good look at that, the regulators, and sort of saying, hang on, we need to be very, very careful here about how much leverage we actually allow. So I think the levels of security are going to change there to ensure that this doesn't create a problem should these key stocks come off and cause absolute chaos on markets there. So we're talking about an index that's up a couple of 100% in the last 12 months. So they would be certainly concerned about that. That's for sure.
Mm.
Now, our neighbours in China have been up to their old tricks. This time round, fortunately it was a dummy ballistic missile test, but nonetheless they thought they'd fire one across the bow and land it somewhere in the Pacific. So that's raised some eyebrows in the area.
Yeah, well, I think it was around about a year ago they put these on show, these intercontinental range submarine launched ballistic missiles. So it's a tongue twister, but effectively, yeah, the release of these I think has just made the rest of the world sit up. As much as a lot of people and a lot of analysts that are focusing on global geopolitics are talking about China all the time, and effectively they're getting bigger and forcing some dominance. This is just another example of their potential power and effectively the scope of which they've increased their stockpiles in regards to nuclear warheads and missiles and everything else that sits in that bucket. So we've heard from a couple of different analysts in terms of the fear of China and what they could do to the world should they choose to. It's just, to me, that's a warning sign.
Yeah, it was interesting that that actually happened only hours after Prime Minister Albanese was signing a new a landmark sort of mutual defence treaty with Fiji, and people were sort of saying, "How's your defence treaty going when there's potential ballistic missiles flying around?"
Yeah, well, I think China is. We've spoken about it for a long time. China's a dominant world player, and this is just further proof that they will do what they want to do. There's no stopping them now.
Yeah, and then look, and I think that some of the people who know the geopolitics pretty well, certainly raise some eyebrows when they start talking about potential things that could happen. Those known knowns or the unknown unknowns, the more risky ones for markets and for Australia in particular. Now, I was just trying to sort of get my head around having an off week on markets in Australia, and a couple of points came down to in the press this week, and one of those was like quite a sharp fall. The OECD looks at living standards across the world, and they were saying that Australia has sort of experienced one of the sharpest declines in living standards in the developed world since the pandemic, which is a concern.
Yeah, well, effectively, it was a 5.1% decline in Australian real wages since that period, where effectively most other countries had a 5% lift. So it's a real concern. But the article goes on to talk about what the forecasts are. It was a Deloitte report from Access Economics, and expected further potential wages to decline. But it then references Jim Chalmers, but it goes on to say that there's a lot going on for us. There's a lot of good stuff going on for us here at home, and it's not all as bad as I say. And business is booming. So
depending on what business you're in, isn't that right? And it's all in how you market the message. And but I'll tell you what, living standards is something that is very dear to the heart of the Australian electorate. So I think watch this space. If there is more murmuring around, living standards and the like, that could become a big issue in Australia come come election time. That's for sure. I think a lot of that has got to do with obviously inflation. I mean, if real wages have decreased, by over 5%, inflation has had a lot to do with that. And there was some numbers come out this week that sort of have pretty much indicated that Australia is a bit of an outlier these days internationally from an inflation outlook point of view. And of all the developed economies, I think it was Iceland that only had a larger sort of core inflation than we have here at the moment. And if you read between the lines, what does that say about interest rates and I think we've moved to a 50-50 chance of a further rate hike between now and the end of the year as a result.
Yeah, well, I think this morning the comparison to Iceland was probably quite relevant. It was very cold.
Yeah, my dashboard had 1.5 on it when I parked the car in the village this morning, and I wasn't too keen to get out of the car, to be honest.
No, but I think you're right. The living standards is key, and just talking to clients across the board, whether that be retirees, people in business, or just or those employees, they're feeling it at every level. So whether it's petrol, whether they're going to the groceries, there's less discretionary spend. They're trying to save or effectively monitor the spending because the cost of living is continuing to soar.
Yeah, and for me, it raises a bit of a philosophical question as well. And they always sort of talk about making sure that our job is to leave the world in a better place for the next generation. I'm not sure we can actually tick that box the way things are going at the moment. I don't know what your gut feel is.
Oh, I think my challenge with the political parties at the moment is that everything that comes out of the mouth of Chalmers or Albanese is just in regards to we're doing it better than the opposition did. We're doing it better. Now, why don't you just do it the best of anyone ever and better than other countries as opposed to just trying to beat what some would argue is the lowest common denominator?
Yeah, when you set the bar so low, it's not too hard to surpass it, yeah?
Like the fund manager going, we outperformed the index by 3%. Great. Well, the index is minus 20. Well, you're not that good.
That's right. That the oxymoron of negative returns. No, they're actually not returns, mate. They're losses. Last time I checked, yeah. No, I did have a client say that one time. Very careful to use that terminology. Now, we've also had some interesting telecommunications issues this week. I don't know if our listeners were on the receiving end of some Telstra issues.
Wow, what an absolute... hang on, I won't swear. Balls up, that was.
Oh yeah, and look, that was a complete debacle. And anyone that was on the Telstra network, we were very fortunate. We spend a lot of money of having fibre into this office, so we were able to sort of bypass that. But if you had any visions of receiving phone calls or sending text messages on the Telstra network, it was an absolute disaster. And it went to show how fragile our entire infrastructure actually is, that a single event can cause such a drama. It actually took out the V-Line train system in totality.
Yeah, I heard this morning that they're actually refunding customers in terms of those impacted and providing compensation, and together with, I think, a couple of days of free travel coming up soon. So
they're so generous.
Yeah,
that's right.
Would have cost them. But the marketing people at Telstra came out and said, that they don't think it was impacted by anyone else. It was an internal issue, but nowhere near the size of the Optus problem.
Yeah, again, it sounds like the government argument you just had before. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as our competitors. Oh, great, yeah. That's great. But how many million people were without telecommunications? And most importantly, people that may have needed 000 emergency services weren't able to get through. So we hope that didn't end the way that it potentially could have, which is a horrible situation. But it goes to show how important having a backup plan is. And when you don't have one, it's a problem.
Correct. Yeah, it's I think Telstra probably controlled the market for a long time, but they're probably going to have to get a few more ducks in a row now to win back some customers or retain customers.
I dare say there'll be some people pretty peeved with what's actually transpired this week. That's for sure. Now, it's never a weekly wrap unless we mention the impossible, and when it comes to President Donald Trump, nothing is impossible. He has done something that I couldn't even make this stuff up if I tried. What's happened? There's a World Cup going on, as we know. We're getting to the business end of the tournament now in US, Mexico, Canada joint World Cup. What actually happened, Anthony? Can you fill in our listeners in case they haven't heard?
Yeah, so not that I'm encouraging gambling, but what price would you have got for President Trump having an impact on a World Cup, soccer World Cup? Like, really, apart from it being in his own country, you would have got pretty long odds. But the last game, USA, or 2 games back, one of their players was sent off with a red card, which is an automatic 1-game suspension at the World Cup. You miss the next one. Trump contacted the FIFA president and recommended that they review this decision made to allow him to play the next game because you wanted the best players on the field, and that it was the wrong decision was made. Fast forward, FIFA defers his penalty to a later period and allows him to play. Unbelievable.
You could not. You couldn't. So it wasn't. I didn't overturn the red card, but I've actually deferred the suspension to some other time. Yeah, that is incredible. Look, fortunately, I would say karma has a way of sorting things out. And when Belgium played the US, that was a quarterfinal, wasn't it? The karma train certainly came home, and the US were on the back of a hiding against Belgium, and I think it ended up 4-1 if I recall correctly. So you tried everything possible, everything as sneaky as possible to sort of get your way, but the karma train came good, and the Belgians managed to score 4 goals, which was I don't think there was a disappointed person in the world apart from anyone in the US. That wasn't happy, was unhappy about that result.
And now, currently before us, we've got an English player who was sent off in the last game against Mexico, who would have missed the next game, but given a 1-match ban, who effectively FIFA have reviewed the decision and put a 2-match ban in place. So, Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, I suspect you need to make a phone call to FIFA in your last 10 days as in power and see whether you can get that overturned.
Good luck. Yeah, so and unfortunately, instead of talking about the football, we're actually talking about the events off the park, which is so disappointing because it's actually been a pretty good tournament. So we're in the thick of quarterfinals, and first semi-finalist in France was decided this morning. So it's all happening, and I'd love to think that I'm about to get some sleep, but between Wimbledon still going on, we don't have any Aussies left in Wimbledon. Actually, we do. We have Cruz Hewitt in the Leighton and Beck's son in the. I think he's through to the semi-finals of the boys singles, so he's going pretty well. So it'd be nice to maybe get a Wimbledon champion even at the junior level. And then we've got the Tour de France going on as well. I really do need to get some sleep. Not going to happen in the month of July by the looks of it.
Plenty going on, as well as the cricket last week with the Australian women's team, which not a lot of publicity about this, but absolutely blew everyone away. Every game they played, just about, including the final when they steamrolled the Poms and retained the women's T20 World Cup.
Fantastic. And we did it on English soil as well. I think that was played at Lord's, so that would have been even more satisfying. So we will find, folks, an Australian winner somewhere. It doesn't matter in which code, at what level, whether it's junior, seniors, we're always looking for some success. But well done to the girls. I think they've been chasing that crown back for the last few years. So awesome effort.
And we're only a couple of weeks away from Com Games starting too. So World Cup will roll off. And
is that in Victoria, mate? Are those games in Victoria? Oh, no, they were supposed to be in Victoria. I take that back. 650 million reasons why we're not having it in Victoria. Yeah, too good, too good. What's on the go for the weekend? Cold weather, but I think the sun might be shining a little bit.
Well, the sun can be shining, doesn't matter, mate. But it's still bloody cold when you're outside. So
Well, I'm sure there'll be some skiers that'll be happy with cold conditions and the sun out there, but not much snow around this year. So yeah, no, looking forward to the weekend. You got anything planned?
pretty quiet this weekend. So yeah, might just be catching up on a few things before I head away next week. So I'll depart when Luke comes back.
Look at you, and your background sort of infers where you'll be. I think you're off to Port Douglas or something, aren't you?
Far North Queensland, yep. So a couple of weeks.
Perfect.
It'd be nice.
Perfect. I love it. Love it. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for another eventful week. Nothing surprises us anymore, and I always have a bit of a chuckle when I sort of review the week that was and go, geez, I wouldn't have thought this was going to happen when I thought about it last Friday, but guess what? It did. But yeah, that's why we love what we do. There's never a dull moment in our world.
That's for sure. And yeah, we're just waiting for the next episode of Trump. Reality TV at its finest.
Yeah, so we need someone to give it the big "you're fired." We'll see how we go. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Take care. Cheers.